Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow space blobs, my fellow earth blobs. How are you? I am so happy to have you here in this space with me, a space that I created for sensitive dreamers, where we can explore life's mystery, life's archetypes, life's energetics, and feel that we're nourished and grounded and also really connected to our souls. And if you're like me, I have been really moving through so much change this year, and I have been really craving just a big exhale to kind of just release all the tension that's built up, all the stressors that have built up, all the waves of transformation that I have moved through, and just feeling a moment of deep release and deep catharsis and reconnection. And if you're like me, then this Aries full moon is going to be offering up so much medicine, wisdom, compassion, release, and a feeling of relief to so many of us. I always find the Aries full moon to be really, really potent. It's just this illumination every year that brings a lot of insight for me. And if you haven't checked out my Libra season video, it kind of contextualizes this full moon in the whole scope of what the Aries Libra axis is all about. And I would highly recommend checking that out. But I want to just spend some time exploring the big themes that I'm noticing around this full moon and get us all set up for that here in this little chat that we are going to have. So settle in, get a tea, get a coffee, go for a walk, take a bath, sit still, do whatever you're feeling like doing. I am so excited to share this with you. This Aries full moon holds a really interesting place in the context of this particular Libra season. It is the full moon that is preceding two eclipses, right? So this full moon is not an eclipse, but it does start to herald us in and usher us into that eclipse energy. Our eclipses this season are going to be in the Libra new moon and the Taurus full moon. So all the Venusian ruled signs are going to be having an eclipse coming up here in a little bit. But first we have this beautiful Aries full moon. It is at 6 degrees of Aries with the sun at 6 degrees of Libra. And this lights up that Libra-Aries axis. And that's a really interesting conversation. At its most simplistic, you can think about this as Aries, the individual, Libra, how we experience other. But I think even more than that, it illuminates our sense of belonging or not belonging. And one of the first themes that really came up for me as I started to look and feel through this Aries full moon were themes around how we belong to ourselves. Because Aries, as the sign of the individual, as the sign that represents what it means to be kind of born into the world and then to experience the world as this little individual person, on the one hand, that's exciting. You get to explore what it means to have preferences and opinions and have favorite colors and things that excite you and all of those beautiful self-expression, right? You get to experience what it means to self-express. But also, that sign of Aries, that sign of individuality, means that we're also experiencing the angst of feeling isolated from God, from spirit, feeling that sense of separateness from fellow beings, from other energies, right? And that is the double-edged sword of Aries energy. It is both thrilling to be the one on the leading edge, as Abraham Hicks would put it, exploring, having experiences, having that self-expression, and also extremely lonely at times. And I think that this full moon really illuminates that. It allows us to sit with both of these truths at the same time. And one of the things that I think is so beautiful about this big full moon of release, of exhale, is that it allows us to take care of the parts of ourselves that have felt alienated. It makes me think about all the costumes and performances we put on, the ways we feel like we have to show up to be loved by our families, to be loved by partners, to be acceptable walking down the street even. All the ways that we learn to survive in the world. This full moon is just a moment of recognition that we do, in fact, learn a whole bunch of behaviors to keep ourselves safe through life, and how tiring it is. And there are just those little sacred moments, I think, in the world, in these cyclical moments in life, and this full moon is one of them, where we just can see that, we can feel it, We can have compassion for it. And perhaps you might have some of those identities or roles that you're feeling really ready to release, because at its core, this is a full moon about releasing pressure that's built up, releasing tension that's built up, releasing identities that have been building up that don't feel true to who we are. And at its core, it's really about feeling like we can belong to ourselves and be our quirky little selves. Because while yes, we all want to expand our consciousness and connect with the divine and be bigger than just this little human person, we're also that human little person with our quirks, with our little things that we love to do. And it's okay to be that way and to release some of the pressure to perform in a way that feels like it'll keep us safe. And I get that some of us really have to keep doing that to literally be safe. It breaks my heart to think about that. But for any of us who can release some of these things that aren't feeling like they're true to us, it's a gift to all of us if we let ourselves do that. So I'm encouraging that. The second theme that really came up for me this full moon in Aries is releasing energetic cords. Now, this is a theme we're going to be continuing to work with all the way through Libra season. It's going to come back again in our chat about the Libra new moon and solar eclipse that we're going to have in a couple of weeks. So this is not the last time we're going to be talking about releasing energetic cords, but this is a really wonderful moment for if you are noticing any forms of yourself are dissolving, any expectations you might have of yourself are dissolving, maybe old relationships or any old formations that have been feeling like they've been naturally kind of leaving your orbit for a long time, or maybe it's stuff from a long time in the past. This is a beautiful energetic for just taking some time to allow yourself to allow some of those entanglements to dissolve a little bit. You know, we can carry energetic attachments to things for a very long time. It's a complicated thing. If you need support, I highly recommend having some through that. But you can also just dissolve small things too, you know, little energetic entanglements, little moments, even entanglements you have within yourself. So this is just a beautiful full moon for recognizing how we've changed form and releasing anything that isn't connected with that anymore. And finally, just feeling, I think this is a beautiful moon for feeling all the weight that we carry to feel safe in the world and to feel that and to let it release. Just let ourselves feel all those feelings. Acknowledge that there is a weightiness to trying to be something in the world. You know, we live in this mechanized world that's built on a lot of this idea of labor that is tied to a lot of really painful history in our world. And it affects all of us and we all feel it. And it has all showed up in our lives in different ways, whether you've had traumatic school experiences, work experiences, family systems experiences. It's showed up for every single one of us. This is a really honest full moon, right? So it helps us to see ourselves and how we're changing form, feel the feelings around that. And also, like, I think the powerful liberation of deciding that we're ready to release some things that we really don't want anymore and are ready to release. Now, there are a couple conversations to the side of this that I think are important to keep in mind here. One is that Uranus in Taurus is going to be squaring Venus in Leo. And this is going to be a really interesting conversation. It's a moment here during this full moon to think about everything that you've moved through since June. And what do you really long to sustain? What do you really want to make? What do you not want to sustain anymore? Leo and Taurus are such creative energetics, and both Venus and Uranus right now are very motivated by how we change form and not holding on to the same form. So there's an invitation here to allow whatever you don't want to keep sustaining to be acknowledged and released. It kind of adds on to what we were just talking about with the full moon. And then the other conversation that's going on is Venus sextiling Mars. So Venus in Leo is going to be sextiling Mars in Libra. And these are the cosmic counterparts. And what feels good to create? What feels good to continue with? What feels like it is bringing you to life? I think this is a nice little side note at the end of this conversation, because I've been talking a lot about what we release. what is no longer serving. We know we love to talk about that in the spiritual world. What's no longer serving? Let's dissolve, let's release. And it's an important part of life. We do this all the time. But within that, I think it's so important to also remember like what just is sparking joy, right? Like what is just bringing us inspiration and excitement. It could be something simple, a book that you're just loving reading, a type of art you're loving to just look at. Whatever it is, I think the Venus-Mars sextile is a reminder to nourish yourself during this full moon with things that also just bring you to life, and let yourself have that. Because whatever is dissolving needs to be counterbalanced by what is also continuing to bring you life. And there's really a meeting point between those two energetics here during this full moon. And if you are looking for support, I am offering up a really beautiful 4-week series over on my Patreon called Reclaiming Intuition. And it's a return to your innate knowing and magic, and I am really excited to offer that up. I'm also going to be doing a visualization and activation for how to release some energy and feel really safe doing it during this Aries full moon. So I really highly recommend coming and checking out my Patreon if you can. I offer so much extra support over there, and I think it's really affordable, and it's something I'm really proud of. So I would love to see you over on that, in that space that I've created for other sensitive souls. And let's get some cards going here so that we can feel through any other intuitive messages that want to come through during this beautiful full moon in Aries. Taking care of our little individual selves and what it feels like to be an individual. And that's not the whole story, right? We're a part of all these big contexts, but it's a place to start. It's a place to come back to, and it's a place that will continue to be an experience we're all having. And so it is important that we approach Aries energy with a lot of tenderness, because there is a vulnerability to being an individual like nothing else. And I think whenever it's highlighted, Aries energy is highlighted, there's a tenderness that we are all needing. 5 of Swords came out. This energy has been prominent. The 5 and 7 of Swords have been prominent in recent weeks. And I think that's partially to do with the fact that we're all recalibrating. We're all trying to figure out how we move through this life. How do we develop self-trust in our newest forms? How do we set boundaries? How do we disentangle? How do we let ourselves be in the new form? You know, if we're taking on new forms, it also means that we are no longer maybe upholding performances. 2 of Cups. Wow. Quite the emotional balancing here between these two. Let's pull one more. And so when we're changing forms like that, there's all these new conversations that have to happen about how we fit into different systems, how we define ourselves, how we show up. And some of those can be a little bit scary and uncomfortable. And the Tower, our dear friend, the Tower, who does like to show up pretty regularly because it's life. And I love an opportunity at any point to explore the Tower and to give it a little bit of nuance. So let's talk about this. Pretty dramatic energy here, right? And once again, we are starting into an eclipse season here, even though this full moon is not an eclipse. It is offering up some energy that has to do with the themes of release that we will be continuing to work with over the next little bit more than a month or so. So 5 of Swords is a card that I often associate with self-trust or the lack thereof. This card, you can't really tell what's going on. You can't really tell if he's backstabbing people or if people don't trust each other. That's part of the whole nuance of the card. But 5s are those growth points where we are kind of recalibrating. We're figuring out what's going on. And for me, whenever I see this card, I think when we haven't taken the time to slow down, check with our systems, check with our innate intuitive knowing, and feel the trust of ourselves, it's very hard to tell anything else that's going on out there in the world. So this is a reminder to not maybe focus on all that's out there. Well, he did that, she said this, you know, these things are going on. Take some time to hear yourself first and foremost before any movement is made. I think that's so important. Now, it's really interesting the way that the Two of Cups showed up here in the middle of these cards that have a lot to do with dissolving and shifting and tension, power dynamics, right? Because the Two of Cups is about balance. It's about harmony. We are, after all, in Libra season, which is the center point of so many things. Libra energy is about holding our center. It's about holding our energetics and being able to hold two truths at once. Our energetic selves, our physical selves, the hidden world and the seen world. And I think here is a reminder of the kind of energetics we're headed towards and what we really want to continue to embody. It's a reminder that while we may be uncomfortable with the way we are changing, the conversations maybe we need to have, or the boundaries we need to set, or the longings that we're having that we're just now starting to really allow ourselves to feel, which is scary sometimes to acknowledge a longing that's been with us for a while, that there's something beautiful arising and coming out of this time. And that something beautiful is peaceful and harmonious and wants to bring art and beauty and care and connection into our lives. But it does take that courage. And, you know, the Tower here in this context, I've said this before, I'll say it again. You know, this card is a symbol of a power dynamic crumbling. And that's really like the core of it. I know often you'll hear that it's about the lightning strike moments when the rug gets pulled out from under and you couldn't expect it and it just came out of nowhere. But this is about something so much more than that. It's about something that's been building for a long time. This tower in and of itself has been building for a long time, and it's a power dynamic that might have been here for a long time. A lot of times I will see this as a power dynamic inside of ourselves that's based on our family system, our culture systems. And it's a time when we're really seeing them for what they are. And we are displacing the power dynamics that are painful to us. We're challenging them. We're questioning them. We're questioning why, you know, it feels so hard all the time to just have a good conversation with that person who's always resisting and always in fight or flight. We're questioning why we put ourselves in certain scenarios. We're deciding that we want more of this peace and harmony and beauty and creativity. And I think that's the real conversation going on here. What is dissolving? What power dynamics are dissolving? What connections are dissolving? And what is giving way in its place? And are we taking the time to visualize that and to really, really own it? Like taking that time, I want to experience that beautiful creative space. In my relationships, in my artwork, in my career, and just the quiet mundane of the day. And this is a reminder to advocate for that in the midst of allowing all those other forms to dissolve. I realize that's a lot. I've just put a lot of information out there. It's a pretty tender topic. There's a lot to work with what I've just sent all your way. But like I said, I'm going to be doing a visualization, a little bit of a meditation about releasing cords or energies that you are ready to dissolve while feeling really, really safe. This is about having a calm nervous system while we do it over on my Patreon. So I'd love to see you there for that if you're really wanting a little resource for how to do this, how to hold this all. Like I said, I'm also going to have my 4-week series over on Patreon that's all about intuition, and it's every Friday in October. I will be putting out new materials. It's just going to be a step-by-step reclaiming of the joy of intuition and giving ourselves permission to go all the way there. So I would love, 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 love to see you there over on Patreon or here. Every time I see your beautiful faces here, there's certain people who comment every time, and it makes me so happy to see your faces. If you haven't commented or liked or subscribed yet, I would love to see you here. I love to hear from you. How are you feeling about Aries energy, this Libra season, this full moon? Tell me. I love reading the comments. Even if I don't get to respond personally to each and every one, I read them all. I love them. It makes me so happy. So please reach out. I love to hear from you. You can also find me on my Instagram and my website. So I'll leave all the resources for how to work with me, how to be more in this space and energy if you're interested. And I love you all so much. Have a beautiful full moon. I will see you for our next moon, which is also an eclipse. So let's talk in the very near future, and I'll see you soon.